Welcome to the Wear, Wag, Repeat podcast. I'm Tori Mystic. As a dog mom lifestyle expert, blogger, and business owner, I love talking to other women in the pet industry and sharing their advice with you every week. Sit, stay, and listen to the latest episode. Welcome to a new solo episode of the Wear, Wag, Repeat podcast. I'm your host, Tori Mystic, and I am really excited to share a huge milestone with you today. On this episode, we are celebrating 100,000 downloads. Woohoo! I am so excited. I've been watching the numbers kind of tick up on my podcast stats for a while, and I wasn't quite sure exactly when this milestone would happen, but we actually hit it on Monday afternoon, just a couple of days ago. So this is really significant because it means that is 100,000 times that listeners took action to hear inspiring interviews with women in the pet industry. You probably contributed to a lot of those downloads, so I just want to personally thank you. If I could list all of your names right now, I would, but that would make this episode very, very long. So in this episode, I am going to be taking a look back at the past 4+ years of podcasting about business and dogs. And as I was kind of getting ready, I knew 100K was coming soon. I was looking back at my archives and I realized that there is a ton of just golden nuggets back there that I feel like people are not discovering. I've interviewed lots and lots of inspiring women on this show. And I was kind of thinking, how can I get people to go back and listen to these episodes? One, as a way to celebrate this exciting milestone and being around for so many years, but two, to really help you discover interviews, businesses, stories, techniques, tricks, hacks, all these kind of things that could help you reach your pet business dreams. So I want to introduce to you an exciting new quiz to help you discover your ideal petpreneur podcast playlist. Now, I know that is quite a mouthful, but I could not avoid the alliteration. I just love it so much because you guys know I am a word nerd. And I also am a lady who loves to take a quiz, a personality quiz, a quiz to tell me which Gilmore Girls character I am. Any kind of quiz, I am down for it. So I was really excited to create my own first quiz. Out of the 200 plus episodes in my archives, I put together 5 different playlists, and they're all curated specifically to help you reach your pet business goals. So from the underdog champion to the prosperous petpreneur and everything in between, there is a playlist just for you. So if you want to check it out, it is brand new. This is the first time I'm announcing it. Go to wearwagrepeat.com/playlist quiz. I'm going to put this link everywhere and anywhere that I can. Look in the show notes for this. It was a lot of work to create this quiz. And so I really want you to take it and discover your own personalized playlist. There are 12 episodes in each playlist, and it's kind of fun to see what your results are. I came up with really fun names for each of them, and I can't wait to hear what you think about it. I'll tell you more about the quiz later, but let's talk first about hitting 100,000 downloads. Like, oh my goodness, this is so exciting. So to give you a little bit of a history, and then I want to share kind of like the podcast by the numbers. But for a little bit of history, this podcast, the Wear, Wag, Repeat podcast, launched on October 1st, 2017. That is about 4.5 years ago. I can't believe I've been a podcaster for that long. So how did I even come up with the idea to do this? Every time I have guests on my show, I ask them, what inspired you to do what you're doing? So let me just ask myself that, right? I was actually first inspired to create a podcast when I was at the Blog Pause conference. I believe it was in May of 2017 in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I took Lucy with me. We loaded in my car, which I had at the time was a Mini Cooper, and we drove from Pittsburgh to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and we attended a conference that was all about pet blogging. I couldn't even believe that that was a real conference that happened. I felt like I had really found my pack. I had found my people, and it was one of the best weeks of my life. I'm not even kidding. It was really exciting to just be around people who shared my dream, which I didn't even know this was my dream at the time, but to work full time and help people grow their own pet businesses and help pet parents give their pets better lives. It's really amazing, actually, that we can all follow our dreams and anything's possible. So back then, at Blog Pause in 2017, we had all kinds of sessions at the conference on all kinds of topics, but they had also organized a couple of different keynote speakers. One of those keynote speakers was from BuzzFeed, and she talked about how they kind of create viral content and a little bit of their affiliate strategy, which was very interesting at the time. Another one of the keynote speakers was a man who I cannot even tell you his name. I can't remember, but he was kind of like a media business person. So he wasn't really in the pet industry. He had a dog, but his specialty was kind of this multi-purpose, repurposing, recycling your content, all of this kind of stuff. And so he gave this talk that just lit a fire under me. And he said, you gotta start a podcast. Then you take that podcast and you can create little quotes and you can put those on Twitter, which is funny now because I don't use Twitter at all. But back in 2017, I was. And so you can take those quotes and put them on Twitter. You can take clips and put them as videos on YouTube. You can turn the transcript into a blog post. You can then email people about it. You can do all this stuff. You can create all of this content out of this one thing, and it starts with a podcast. And so I was just really excited about this idea. I never thought about it before. But another thing that he said that kind of did it for me was thinking about your personal brand as a TV network. So instead of thinking about your brand as like a particular show, like maybe The Real Housewives, it's a whole franchise of shows, or, I love Gilmore Girls. I talk about that all the time. But instead of thinking about yourself as an actual show, he said, think about yourself and your personal brand as an entire television network. So imagine that you're NBC and you have, some shows during the day that are dedicated to news and informing people and educating people. Then you have some shows during the day that are funny and make people laugh and are really entertaining. You might have other shows during the day that are entertaining, but they are more dramatic, pull at people's heartstrings, and they kind of tell, an underdog story or something like that. So the way that he explained this, I just fell in love with the whole thing. And I was like, okay, that's it. I need a multimedia network of my own. And that is how I decided to create the Wear, Wag, Repeat podcast. So I pulled some numbers. I thought it would just kind of be fun to look at this. Maybe I will make some kind of infographic with these numbers. But I thought I would share them with you right now. So in the past 4.5 years since launching this show, we have had, as of right now, 100,074 downloads. My most downloaded episode of all time has 2,044 downloads. That was episode 184 with Julie Swan, the honest dog breeder. We talked about pricing, which was a really interesting topic, and I had no idea it would become my most popular episode ever. 106 is roughly the total hours of Wear, Wag, Repeat podcast that you can go listen to. So if you have a free 106 hours in your schedule, you could go listen to every single episode ever. Or you could just take my podcast playlist quiz and you could find the 12 that I've curated just for you, which is at wearwagrepeat.com/playlist quiz, FYI. Another number I want to point out is 213. That's how many episodes we have. You're listening to 213 right now. In those 213 episodes, I have interviewed over 175 women. I've also interviewed one man. That's right. There was one guy who snuck on the show. I didn't know he was coming, but it was him and his co-founder. It was actually a mother and son duo who I interviewed a few years ago at this point, and I had no idea he was going to be on the interview. So I will say that one man snuck on the show, but other than that, it's 106 hours of women talking about business and pets. Another interesting kind of number to point out is 5. It takes about 5 hours to prep, record, publish, and promote each and every episode. I didn't do the math on how many hours I've put into this total, but let me just tell you, it is a lot. It's way more than 5 per episode when you also include creating the website, all kinds of other stuff. There's so much back-end stuff to be done. So it's a scary high number of hours spent on all of that. Another exciting number is 98. That is the number of reviews that the show has on Apple Podcasts. So that is the Wear, Wag, Repeat podcast by the numbers, which is kind of fun. I hope you enjoyed hearing about that. Did any of those numbers surprise you? Come and let me know on Instagram. You can always chat me up at Wear, Wag, Repeat. Now, I mentioned earlier how I was going through my archives and kind of thinking about this milestone of hitting 100,000 downloads. I also was going through my archives recently when I prepared for an interview I was on with Candace from Pet Boss Nation. She has a relatively new pet industry podcast called Boss Your Business Podcast. And she interviewed me in honor of Women's History Month, which was in March. For that interview, she asked me to share my top 3 episodes to celebrate Women's History Month, and it was nearly impossible for me to narrow it down to just 3 episodes. But I did it, and I want to just kind of highlight those for you now in case you missed that interview. You can always go back and listen to that interview on the Boss Your Business podcast. I really always love talking to Candace. She is so inspiring and doing amazing things. So for her, I told her that my 3 favorite episodes were, in no particular order, episode 127, which was with Melissa Michener of The Bark Shop. She does amazing things with her business. It is a dog grooming business in Harlem, and that's a really, really great episode. I just loved hearing about how she started and how she grew her business. She has an amazing story that you should go back and listen to on episode 127 of the Wear, Wag, Repeat podcast. Another one that I loved, in no particular order, again, was number 170, and that is with Minyoung Marita of Dog Bakery Academy. Minyoung, first of all, is just the sweetest, most fun to talk to person. We were giggling so much when we talked. We actually had to re-record our interview. We had some technical issues on my end, but then we were just giggling so much you could barely hear what we were talking about. So that's a really fun episode. She's just a wonderful, kind person. And she shared with me how her dog's health issues inspired her to start making her own food for him. And then she ended up starting her own dog bakery bakery, and now she teaches other people how to create their own dog bakeries through her online courses. So that's really great. That's episode 170. Another one from the archives, but more recent, is episode 205. That is with Natalie Venosi of Sweet Goodbye. You guys probably know that this episode was really special to me because Natalie inspired a total mindset shift for me and how I think about end of life for my dogs. So I've been reading the Forever Dog book, which I'm sure a lot of you have been as well. And that book has me thinking about how can I prolong my dog's life or their lives and make their life as high quality as possible for as long as possible. But inevitably, there will come a day, no matter what you do, no matter how many supplements you take or exercise you do, you will have to say goodbye. And Natalie has created a business where she's totally transformed this process or this event that we dread into something that I don't want to say we look forward to, but a way to celebrate the beautiful life that our dogs have lived. And this was just such a special conversation and interview. It really, really sticks out of the past 212 episodes. That conversation was really special to me. So that's episode 205 if you want to go check it out in the archives. And so looking for those top 3 when Candace asked me to do that, I really realized how many episodes I love. And there are so many that I think they're still good. They're still so good. Every single one back to episode 1 is still so good and so relevant. And I've talked to people in just about every imaginable niche of the pet industry. If there's something you haven't heard, please let me know. I would love to find someone in a really specific niche in the pet world and talk to them. But in the meantime, I have a huge variety of episodes to listen to. So to make it a little bit easier for you, so you don't have to go back and dig through the entire archive because it's just way too much. I know it's hard to kind of keep scrolling and keep clicking, show more. So I put together 5 different playlists. Each playlist has 12 episodes. It was hard to even narrow it down to that, but I did. Each playlist has 12 episodes that are specifically geared towards different niches or different kind of places where you might be in your journey in the pet industry. So those 5 different categories, and I had so much fun coming up with these names. They are Paw Pamper Pro, an ultimate maker, prosperous petpreneur, possum petfluencer, and underdog champion. And I swear they look a lot better written on the page than they do sound said out loud. But prosperous petpreneur and ultimate maker, those are 2 of my favorite ones that I came up with. And so I just want to give you a quick kind of description and highlight of the different playlists. And in order to find out which one is right for you, you're going to have to take the quiz. It should only take you a couple of minutes or less than that. There are only 4 questions, and I will figure out which one of these playlists is right for you, send you the playlist, and then send you some other really great tips and stuff to kind of keep you on track to reach your pet business dreams. So again, if you want to take the quiz right now while you're listening, you can do that at wearwagrepeat.com/playlist quiz. But if you are walking or driving or doing something else and you can't take the quiz right now, I want to give you kind of a quick little description of each of the 5 categories. So first off, we have Paw Pamper Pro. And this playlist features interviews with women petpreneurs who are experts in pet sitting, dog training, grooming, and other kind of service-based businesses. One of my favorites is with Angela Pantalone of WAG Central. She runs the award-winning Canine Culture Hub in Connecticut, and I always see her popping up in my feed winning awards at different pet trade shows. And talking with her was just really inspiring. She's got a great energy around her, and I just feel like it's an episode you might not discover if you don't get your personalized playlist. The next playlist is the Ultimate Maker. So this playlist features interviews with women who have created businesses around all kinds of products, from playful cardboard boxes for cats to taking their business from Etsy to wholesale. Some of them make treats, others make accessories and toys and dog beds and more. One of the interviews I love on this playlist is with Leanne Baum. She runs Pure Earth Pets, which is an eco-friendly subscription box for pets. And with Earth Day coming up, it's a really great episode that I wanted to highlight. The third playlist that you might get as one of your results is the Prosperous Petpreneur. I had way too much fun with these names, you guys. So if you get the Prosperous Petpreneur playlist, you will hear interviews with amazing CEOs, high-level consultants, and more. Some of these businesses have been picked up by Whole Foods nationwide. Some of them are top Amazon sellers. Another one is working with a nationwide network of government organizations that issue pet licenses. I mean, these people are doing major things. If you get this playlist, I want to make sure you listen to an interview with Carrie Fitzgerald about the secrets of growing a 6-figure pet product business, including customer acquisition in places other than Instagram. That's always something that I'm interested in learning about. Carrie herself actually ran a pet subscription box, so she knows what she's talking about. The fourth playlist, in no order here, but the next playlist is the Possum Petfluencer. On this podcast, I have interviewed so many different influencers. Of course I have, because I'm an influencer, so it's something that I love to talk about. So I've interviewed people who are TikTok stars, women and their pets who have major Instagram followings, and bloggers who have been at it even longer than I have. And I started Wear, Wag, Repeat all the way back in 2013. So some people have been doing this for a very long time, and they have a lot of expertise to share. I definitely want to call out an interview on this playlist with Corey of Jax and the Pack. You might follow them on Instagram. Corey and I had a really great conversation where we got really transparent about how to actually make money as a pet influencer. It's all fun and games, getting all these likes, but we want to make money, right? Speaking of making some money, our last playlist is the Underdog Champion. So a lot of us are in this industry because we have a huge love of pets and we have huge hearts. But we don't always necessarily have huge bank accounts to go along with the work that it requires to rescue all of these animals and make an impact in the world. So the people who are doing this successfully, how are they pulling it off? Well, I asked them. I have tons of interviews and I curated 12 of my favorites for this podcast playlist. From local advocacy for against breed bans to working on fundraisers for local animal shelters, and also helping your neighbors care for their pets in an emergency. There are a ton of women with huge hearts on this podcast. I really loved one of these conversations with Beth Miller of Wagtown. She asked, "What does dog-friendly really mean?" And then she proceeded to do a huge nationwide study to find out what dog-friendliness actually means in different cities across the country. And she's doing amazing work to make our communities more dog-friendly, whatever that means for your particular community. So there you go. There's the rundown of our 5 different categories. You have the Paw Pamper Pro, Ultimate Maker, Prosperous Petpreneur, Possum Petfluencer, and the Underdog Champion. Which one are you? You'll have to go to wearwagrepeat.com/playlist quiz to find out. There are just a few questions and you will get your results. I can't wait to see what you get. I will also send you an email with an Instagram story slide so you can share your results on Instagram and tell everyone what you are. So you can say, yay, I am an ultimate maker, or whatever it is that you get as your results. As I celebrate 100,000 downloads, I really want to thank you for listening, whether this is the first episode that you have listened to or the 213th episode that you have listened to. I really, really appreciate it. Like I said at the beginning, if I could call each of you out by name or send all of you a personal DM, I would, because it just means so much to me. You're helping me follow my dream, and you're also giving me a platform to shine a spotlight on all kinds of women who are doing amazing things with pets around the world. So before I wrap up this episode, I want to ask you for one more quick favor. I want to keep growing the show, right? I'm not stopping at 100K. We got to get to 1 million. So can you help me out by sharing the podcast with someone who you think would like it? You can send them an episode. You can just tell them to go to their favorite podcast player and hit subscribe and just figure it out on their own. Or you could give them the link to my brand new quiz and they can find their own ideal petpreneur podcast playlist and start from there. So if you need any resources or any links or any episode recommendations, just reach out to me and I will be happy to do that. You can always find me on Instagram at wearwagrepeat. And that wraps it up for this week's episode. Again, thank you guys so much for helping me hit 100K. What did you like most about this episode? Find me on Instagram at TMystic and let me know what intrigued you or what questions you have about starting or growing your own dog-inspired business. You can also screenshot this episode and tag me in your stories. I love to see who is listening out there. Some of the best conversations happen after the episode, right? So track me down over on Instagram or join the Wear, Wag, Repeat Labs Facebook group to connect with other dog-obsessed entrepreneurs. And as always, you can find all the links and resources discussed in this episode at wearwagrepeat.com/podcast. See you back here next week.